Okay, this is the 140-160 class. We're going to be doing two voice today, and this is accounting. Let's doing 140-150. This is our murder trial that we've been working on. Are you ready? Begins with a question for the record. Okay, you recognize People's 105.
Yes, it's an envelope, item number 8 from B10665 with the label sunglasses. That would correspond to photograph number 21.
Okay, and People's 106?
That would be item 9 from B10665, and it's a hairbrush.
And that corresponds to what?
That would be photograph number 22.
Okay, look at my notes and see if I have any other questions. I think I'm about finished. Just give me a second if I may. When you booked all these items, many of which we've shown you today in court, how does it work? You put them in an envelope, you seal it, and you tell us. You put the ID on it.
You put it in an envelope. You write information on the outside so you can identify it in court. You sign the evidence tape. You put the tag on it, and it's booked into evidence. You have to put the list into the property system, and it prints out the barcodes for you.
How many years did you say you've been doing this?
6, almost 6.
Okay, when you find someone in a shooting, is it standard to try to find if there's any gunshot residue on their hands if you think there's a shooting involved?
Yes, that's usually standard.
Do you try to dust or swab hands of the people if you see them having been shot?
Yes, we do.
Is that normal operating procedure?
Yes.
In this case, did you do that?
I did.
With whom? With which victim?
Victim Dudier.
The one that is shown here in People's 8?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
How do you do it? Swab it and put it in an envelope?
Little discs, plastic discs. You swab the hand, swab up the arm, and then it's sealed, and then they're booked into property also. There's one disc for each hand.
Okay. And the detectives or the DA or the defense, if someone wants to test it, they can send it off or request it be sent off?
Correct.
Do you know if it was ever sent off in this case?
I have no idea.
But it's available if anyone wants to?
Right.
The gunshot residue collection system, or what do you do to see if there's any gunshot residue?
Right.
You said swab. You don't slide it on the skin. It's sticky, and you just kind of touch it to the skin.
Correct.
In theory, if there's some residue there, it sticks to the disc?
Correct.
So you take one disc and check all over the hand?
One hand. Yes.
And so you use a separate disc for the left hand, separate disc for the right hand?
Correct.
And you only did that as to Mr. Dudier?
Yes, I did.
And then all the other items that you collected, we didn't go through every one, but for instance, the bottle, when we look in the photograph where there's a bottle next to item 24, you booked that and you marked on there item 24, green bottle.
Correct.
And you booked it under the same property tag number B10665. Is that correct?
Yes, number 26. Is that what you're talking about? Photograph number 26?
Right.
Yes.
And that's true with all the items that we see?
Yes.
That we saw in all those photographs that I think were items 1 through 29?
9,
And all of those items were booked on property tag number B10665. Is that right?
No, let's see.
Oh, I see. For instance, the blood sample is on a different tag?
Correct. And the hat and one of the broken bottles.
Item number 27. One of the broken bottles was booked, but it was booked on 10666, correct?
Correct.
When you took that gunshot residue sample, you did this right there in the middle of the block on Sierra Nevada. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
I don't know if I asked you all this, but did you try to get fingerprints off the items like the hairbrush and Heineken bottles and so forth?
On some of the items, yes.
Did you succeed in getting latent fingerprints off any of the items?
I believe I lifted one latent print or possible partial. I don't know what. I can't remember offhand. It was off one of the bottles.
Whatever prints you might have gotten, did you send them to the people that do the examining?
Yes,
So you do the collecting of the print if you can get one, and there's another unit does the comparison.
correct,
So you sent whatever you had on to the next division
correct.
to do what they could do, if anything. Ask this general question. Maybe I asked, do these accurately show what you were trying to show that night?
Yes,
No trick photography or trick angles or anything?
no,
And have you had experience taking photographs at scenes?
yes,
Are you experienced in putting down the placards and doing what you did in this case
yes,
and recording what you find?
yes,
Just reminded me of one thing.
yes,
The placards with the numbers and the photographs, the large ones, those are like plastic placards, right?
yes,
Next to them, some of the items have little white pieces of paper that is folded, like standing up, tent-shaped thing.
yes,
On one you pointed to, I think a red piece of paper.
right,
So when you initially put your placards down with the numbers, you put them as near as you can to where the items are marked with the white card, the folded cards, right?
right. Sometimes we move, usually they're white or orange cards, whatever the officers or the detectives mark the items with. A lot of times on a casing, it's right on top of it. We'll move that paper and put the placard down next to the item. So the item is not moved, that piece of paper may be.
So if a detective comes out to the scene and there's a shell casing, they might take a business card or something, fold it in half and put it directly over there.
Correct.
So you have to move it in order to take the photograph.
You have to move the paper, yes.
But once you put the placards down, the numbered placards, do they stay in the same place or do you move those if you move the card?
No, they're in the place where I see the item. That's where the placard goes.
And then you don't move it even if you move the white placard?
Right.
No other questions? Okay, we're going to continue on. We have a new witness. Have a seat over here, please. Would you state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
First name is Stephen with a V. Last name is Capps, C-A-P-P-S.
Thank you. Where are you employed, sir?
Employed by the city of Stockton as a police officer.
How long have you been so employed?
In a couple days, it will be 19 years.
What was your involvement on April 2nd, April 3rd at the location of Weber and Sierra Nevada and Main Streets?
I'm currently assigned in the Robbery Homicide Division of the Police Department. That evening, I received a call that there had been a double homicide and to respond to the scene.
What time?
I responded to the scene at I received the call at 11:54 p.m. in the evening, and I arrived on scene about 12:52.
8 minutes to 1.
Yes, sir.
What was your responsibility there at the scene?
I was assigned as the scene investigator.
You know, when these kinds of cases happen, is there a division of labor?
Yes, sir, there is.
One maybe interviews witnesses, one person looks at the scene.
That's correct.
You tell us. I shouldn't be telling. Tell us how it works.
Well, the way that you stated, there are 3 guys assigned to the homicide teams. 2 will be the investigators who will do the interviews. Myself, I was assigned to the scene investigation, which would cover the actual scene.
Okay. So we've already, first of all, do you know the person just got off the stand?
Yes, sir, I do.
What name do you know her by?
Tony Jurovich.
And did you direct her that night?
Yes, sir, I did.
Were you the one in charge of the scene?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay, and we've already heard from others about the scene. So let me just ask you a few questions, about, have you seen this exhibit, People's 13, before?
Yes,
The one that's on the screen?
yes, sir, I have.
Okay. Did you, when you were there at the scene, have you done this before, by the way? Gone to a homicide and been in charge of the scene?
Yes, sir, I have.
It is important to pay attention to lighting sources, weather, those kinds of things.
Yes, sir.
Tell us, for example, in this case, did you note what light sources there were near the area of the shootings?
Yes, I did.
With the laser, can you tell us if they show up on this diagram, People's 13, and explain for the record what you're referring to?
Okay, right here is a street light, and that's located on the south side of Weber Avenue at the intersection of Weber and Sierra Nevada. Sierra Nevada is the street that runs north-south. East-west is Weber Avenue, and located right there is a functioning street light.
Okay, that night it was functioning.
Yes, sir.
Any other sources of light near that Weber Market that are in the diagram that you can show us?
There is a light on the halogen lamp to the front of the store that was also working. There is a street light.
I'm sorry, does that show on People's 19?
Yes, sir, it does. There is a halogen lamp right in that area, right
Above the sign that says Weber?
above the sign, and there is a second halogen lamp located right there
On the Sierra Nevada side of the street?
on Sierra Nevada. Both of those lights were functioning on that evening.
Okay, and what about elsewhere around the area of the scene? Were there other light sources?
Right here,
Okay, I think we heard about that one, the one near 22 North Sierra Nevada.
yes, sir.
That's drawn in there on the diagram.
Yes, sir.
Was that working that night?
Yes, sir, it was.
Did you see any other functioning sources of light that night that are noted here in the diagram?
There are several lights along the interior and exterior portion of 15 North Sierra Nevada.
Are they drawn in with the yellow domes on the sketch?
Yes, sir.
People's 13? Okay, is that about it?
That's about it.
What were the weather conditions that night? Did you happen to make a note of that? Do you recall? Or the moon, if you recall?
I believe it was cool, little or no breeze, and I don't recall whether or not about the moon.
Well, you were out there that night at 8 minutes to 1 in the morning, out there around Weber Market. Give us an idea what the lighting sources, you've already described them for us, but give us an idea of the degree to which you could see other officers or other people down the street, or that you couldn't see them. Give us an idea if you can.
The front of the store area right in here was well lit. Almost, you could see plain. I could see officers, I could see patrol vehicles. Right in this area, right along the east curb line where the light fixture was, where that was functioning, it's a standard normal lighting from a street light. So you could see well there, as well as down here on the east side of Sierra Nevada. I can't see with the plant, but right there.
I'm sorry, did I cut you off? Okay, with exhibit 22.
22, right here, that street light was functioning. You could see the driveways and the entire east side of the sidewalk, as well as a portion of the street out in here. As you looked from the street light up this way, I could see the entire corner, see officers walking around.
Okay, so what did you end up doing there at the scene?
Directed FET, or evidence technician, Jurovich, to collect items of evidence.
Okay, we've already asked her about, were you there, by the way, when she was putting the placards down and taking the photograph of the placard and collecting the item next to the placard.
Yes, sir.
So we've covered that with her. Let me just ask you about the ballistics evidence in this case. Did you notice different types of ballistics evidence there at the scene?
Yes, sir, I did.
In what way did they appear to differ?
There was different caliber shell casings left at the scene.
Could you just give us an idea? Could you come down with the court's permission to People's 15 on the diagram?
Sure.
Show us were there two different types?
Two different types. There was 9mm and 40 caliber. There, were 21 shell casings in total.
Altogether, 21 shell casings.
Yes, sir.
Are you pretty familiar with firearms?
I have a general knowledge of firearms. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm going to be calling somebody else later and get a comparison. But in general, what is a casing? When you say there were 21 casings,
you have the actual casings, which is where the bullet sits with the powder, and the head of the bullet is seated into the casing. There's a primer on the back of the casing, which is fired by the firing pin, which will send the projectile out through the barrel of the weapon. Expended casings. When I say casings, there were 21 expended casings that were found at the scene.
Okay, let me just ask you a question. When you shoot a gun, certain types of guns, you shoot a gun and the casing, like in the movies, you see the casing comes flying out of the gun.
The casing is ejected from the port, correct?
That's the technical word. You found 21 of those?
Yes, sir.
Two different types?
Yes, sir.
9s and what else?
40 caliber.
Could you show us where the 40 caliber were?
Sure.
In People's 15. I'll give you this blue magic marker. Maybe you could circle them and do an arrow somewhere showing us.
Okay.
Okay. Can you just tell us for the record what you drew in there on People's Exhibit number 15?
The area that I circled on People's Exhibit 15 is the area where the 40 caliber expended shell casings were located.
And so we have an orientation here. Where was the blood from the body? You see the A, B.
A, B, shell.
Don't write it out, just can you point?
Yeah.
With the laser?
A, B is here. That's where the 2 blood drops were found in the street. Shell casings, 40 caliber, are in here. This one right here is actually a 9mm shell casing that was mixed in with the 40 caliber.
Is there a color code there?
Yes.
What colors are the 9s?
The 9mm shell casings are color coded in red. The orange and the blue colors depict the 40 caliber shell casing.
And I know on the projector it might be hard to distinguish between the red and the orange, but in the original, can you make it out clearly which is orange and which is red?
Yes, you can.
For the record, in People's 15, this circle represents where the 40 calibers were found.
Yes, sir.
What about the 9mm? What was the other caliber?
9mm.
Where were the 9mm found?
Up here.
Can you circle that on this exhibit?
Sure.
With the red magic marker, please, on Exhibit 15.
Okay.
3 locations.
3 locations.
For 9mm. Up there near Weber Market and near where the body was.
Correct.
For the 9s. And the 40s are closer to where the body is.
Correct.
Thank you. You can return to your seat, please. Now, alrighty. Let me look at my notes, see if I have any other questions for you. Let me show you this exhibit, People's 32, which we've already seen before. Have you seen this gun, by the way, before?
No, this is the first time I've seen it.
You're familiar with this type of gun?
That is a Glock
Semi-automatic?
Semi-automatic 40 caliber.
How do you load it?
You take the magazine and slide the magazine up through the handle and then pull back the slide, and that slides in a round into the chamber.
Okay. Is this the kind of gun that leaves casings when you fire it?
Yes, sir.
Now, what about this People's 33? You familiar with this type of gun?
That's a revolver. Looks like a 38.
Okay, and you put the bullets in.
Slide the bullets into the chamber.
Okay. Now, when you fire this type of gun, these are the type you see in the old Gunsmoke, the old Western movies. Is that a fair statement?
It's a fair statement, yes.
Revolver.
Revolver, yes, sir.
When you fire these kinds of guns like this revolver, does it eject a casing?
No, sir.
What happens to the casing in these kinds of guns?
After you fire the round and pull the trigger, the cylinder will spin. In order to empty that, you're going to have to open the chamber and actually physically empty out the rounds.
Okay, let me look at my notes real quick. I don't have any further questions. This will be some timed warm up. This will be at 160 words per minute. Beginning with a question for the record. And what's your job there?
Work standards development.
And how long have you been at CAP?
11 years.
Directing your attention to May 5, 1978, there was a golf outing scheduled for that weekend. Mr. Park, I'm going to ask you some questions about an automobile collision that occurred on or about May 5, 1978. Do you recall that particular incident?
Parts of it.
Okay. If you don't understand my questions that I ask you, let me know, and I'll be glad to rephrase them. I am not going to try to confuse you. Please state your name and your address.
Louis Park, 1936, Canterbury, Washington, Illinois.
And how long have you lived at that address?
Since September.
And are you married?
No.
Do you live at that address with anyone else?
No, I don't.
Who's your present employer?
Cat.
And do you know where the golf outing was scheduled for?
What it was for?
Where was it scheduled?
It was in Monticello, Canaway Country Club.
Okay, and you made some plans to go to the outing with Kenny Dotson?
That's correct.
Do you remember what time that day you got together to leave for Monticello?
Around 2:30.
And how do you remember that time?
Just that I left work later on, after the morning and had lunch.
Okay, where did you meet at 2:30?
At his trailer.
You met Mr. Dotson at his trailer in East Peoria?
Correct.
Did either one of you have anything to drink at the trailer?
No, not that I remember.
Had you had anything to drink before your meeting him at his trailer that afternoon?
Yes, we had lunch at the Wine Rack, Paradise Wine Rack.
Okay, and where is that located?
In East Peoria.
And do you remember what you had for lunch?
No, I don't.
And do you recall what each of you had to drink at lunch?
I'm not sure, but 1 or 2 scotch and waters.
Yes, and you had...
I know that's what I had.
You hadn't had anything prior to lunch on that morning's drink?
No.
Okay. Did you take any alcohol in the vehicle with you on the trip to Monticello?
We stopped, yes.
And where did you stop?
I think at the Convenient in Sunnyland.
Convenient?
Yes, Convenient.
Was that both of your ideas?
No.
Do you remember whose idea?
I'm not certain.
Okay. Do you remember who paid for it?
Mr. Dotson.
And what kind of alcohol was that?
Scotch.
And did you both consume scotch on the way to Monticello?
Yes.
Do you remember the amount you consumed?
No.
Was it a fifth you had picked up?
I'm not sure. I am pretty sure it was.
Okay. How far is it from Peoria to Monticello?
Approximately 170 miles.
And no one else rode with you two, is that correct?
Yes.
Was it your vehicle that was being driven?
Yes.
What kind of a car was it?
It was a 1975 Grand Prix.
Was it in good operating condition?
Yes.
You left for Monticello about 2:30.
Yes.
About what time did you arrive in Monticello?
About 8 or so, 8:30.
Okay, and did you make any more stops from Washington to town?
Yes, for gas.
Fine.
I can't recall, exactly where.
Okay. When you arrived at Monticello, you checked into a motel.
We went to the country club.
Okay, when did you check into the motel?
Well, when we went that evening.
Did you go in the room?
We had a key given to us, I remember.
Okay, you went directly to the country club when you got into town then?
Correct, right,
That was approximately 7 or 7:30.
right.
How did you feel when you got there?
All right.
You didn't feel that you had any effects from whatever alcohol drinks you had?
I'm not sure.
First of all, did you feel intoxicated?
No,
Did you notice anything about yourself that would indicate any effects from the alcohol?
no,
And that was true at, say, 6 or 6:30?
right.
And did you note anything about Mr. Dotson that would indicate the effects from the alcohol at that time?
Not that I can recall.
Do you know if you ate dinner when you arrived?
Yes,
And who did you eat dinner with?
Mr. Dotson.
Was there anyone else that you ate dinner with?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember what you ate for dinner?
I remember having steak. I had a steak.
And did you have anything to drink with your dinner?
I believe, yes. I recall I did have at least one alcoholic beverage.
Okay. And what would that have been? Scotch and water?
Yes,
And approximately when did you finish eating dinner?
I don't remember.
I know it's been a long while back.
I'm not sure, but I would say we finished by 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Okay, then what did you do following dinner?
We went into the bar.
And did you meet anyone there from the Peoria area?
Yes.
And who was there?
What I remember, Larry Davis and Al Lavin.
And did you spend some time then with them?
Yes.
Do you remember what, if anything, you drank over the course of the rest of the evening prior to leaving the club?
No, I can't remember.
You probably had a couple of drinks.
I'm not certain, but I would say probably.
Okay, this will be another two-voice format. We'll start out at 170 and then we'll drop it back to 160. Begins with a question for the record. The next thing you knew after the tree hit the car was what? That you were sitting in the flower bed? Is that your next recollection?
No,
What was your next recollection?
the next recollection I have is this man was helping me get up out of the planter box.
What?
You heard me. He was helping me get out of the flower box.
Why?
I don't know.
You don't remember falling to the ground and hitting the ground?
No.
When this man helped you up, where were you at that time?
What do you mean?
Were you actually in this flower bed that's in the picture?
Yes, I was in the flower box.
Okay, that flower box looks like it's surrounded by cement.
Yes.
Do you know whether your head hit the cement or did you hit the dirt or what?
I don't know.
Did you feel faint at any time?
I must have because I don't remember anything.
Did anybody tell you what happened?
Not that I remember.
And you don't have a recollection right now of waking up when this fellow helped you get up?
No. The only thing I can remember is later on the wife asked me, "What's the matter with you?" And I said that I don't feel very good. That's all that I said at that time.
Okay, is that later the same day?
Yes, it was later on the same day.
Now, you say someone helped you up. Do you know who this person was?
No,
Do you know whether he might have been an employee of the fairgrounds?
I don't know. He was some drunk for all I know.
Did you see him around?
I haven't seen him. I looked around all the employees at the fairgrounds, and I didn't find this particular man.
After he helped you up, did he disappear and that was the last time you saw him?
That's the last time I saw him.
Where did he go?
I don't know. He might have been there with the fair people. I just can't remember now.
So the fair people are the ones that ran this?
Oh, yes. There were a lot of them at that time.
What did this man have on?
I don't know.
You have never seen him since that day.
No, he was dressed in some clothes.
Do you know whether he saw this tree falling on the car?
I don't know.
Did you have any conversation with this man?
No, not that I can remember.
What do you mean?
I think I must have said something to him. I don't know.
He helped you to your feet, is that right?
Yes.
Were you able to stand when you got up?
Yes, I was.
Well, did you have to go sit down at that time?
Sit down.
Were you able to stand at that time?
Later on, I sat down, if that is what you mean.
Right after this, how did you feel? Can you tell us?
I don't remember. I don't know. I can't tell you that for sure.
Okay. Was anyone that you know with you at the time this tree hit the car?
I don't know. I just remember seeing the man in the flower box. It is not something you see every day. He was pretty funny.
Just answer my question.
Okay.
Okay. When you went back to the car, did you go by yourself or did you have anyone go with you?
No, I went by myself and then they came later. Someone came later, as far as I know.
Okay, as far as you know, you do not know if anyone else saw this tree hit the car.
I don't know.
Where did you leave him and your wife when you went back to the car to put the elephant in the car?
They were inside of the fairground entrance. There is a bar there, and they were inside the bar.
How far away was that from your car?
I don't know. I just can't remember that now.
Okay. Is that what is around the fairgrounds? What do you remember?
I don't know.
Is it something you can see?
Oh, yes. Yes, you can see through it.
What is it?
I don't know.
As far as you know, both of them were back behind there at the time the tree hit the car.
As far as I know, yes.
Do you know whether or not there were any witnesses at all to this tree that hit the car?
I don't know. No.
Did you ask anyone if they were a witness?
No.
On the day of the accident, did you ask anyone?
No, I did not.
That is what you were told?
Yes.
This was on the day of the accident?
Yes.
Okay. I want to take a look at the information that was filed in the court in this case, and at the back is the claim, a written claim.
Yes.
I want you to flip through this and see if you can see anything that you recognize in it.
Yes.
Let me save you some time on this. Go to the last page of this and see if that is your signature that is written on this.
Yes.
Okay, that will save us some time.
Yes.
Your attorney signed it, the last page, and I know that your signature also is on this, but can you tell me that?
Yes, I know that.
Okay, so you must have read that before you signed it.
If I signed it, I read it.
Okay, and the document that we have here, do you think that you signed it?
Are you crazy?
Pardon me?
Do you think that I do not know my signature? We learned how to write in the first grade. Don't you have any other questions to ask me? That poor court reporter even looks bored. And for all the money that she earns, we should try to keep this interesting. Can't we talk about the man who fell into the flower box?
I am the attorney. I will be asking you the questions. Do you understand that?
Speaking of people who make too much money,
You will kindly just answer my questions and not add any comments of your own.
I will if I feel that I need to. Thank you.
Let's get back to the matter at hand.
Yes.
Okay. And the document that you signed is here.
Yes.
Now, in the complaint, you said that the tree which fell on your car, or part of the tree which fell on your car, had some problem.
How do I know if the tree had a problem?
I'm just asking you how it looked.
I do not inspect trees as a matter of practice.
After the accident, did you go down to inspect the fairgrounds?
Yes.